of late. They went pretty poorly in stage one. Is Bank perhaps the first step for redemption?
No, I think this is quite
Savage.
brave from Fury. Like, I really think this is quite brave. We saw WILDCARD play this in the OCS as well, and they looked good on it. They brought a lot of innovation on this map that we don't normally see. They just look strong on this particular map, and I think for Fury, this might be a small blunder in the veto.
And of course, Fury cannot afford any blunders. You better hope that the rejuvenated roster is what they need, because if not, this may be their 8th consecutive L in APAC South this year. But of course, to take you through it, we have two of my favorite human beings this side of the equator. It is Guz and Manic. Please take this one away.
I'm super curious to know who your favourite is on the other side of the equator. That's all I care about, really, Guz.
Well, we know one person that's on the other side of the equator right now, I believe.
Is it? Yeah,
Jake's an Oxbrander,
yeah.
I think. If my geography stacks up, it might be wrong, actually. I don't particularly know.
Isn't he in Sweden? Yeah, that
that
checks
counts.
out, mate. That checks out.
Yeah.
Look, of course, we have just seen Dire Wolves keep their undefeated streak. Will Fury keep their defeated streak? I mean, I feel like this has got to be it. Wildcard, this is a massive game for them to kickstart the stage.
Yeah, this is big for both teams. Fury are trying to get themselves out of a really bad patch of form, I guess, if you want to describe it that way, and the Wildcard on the other side are continually still trying to prove themselves. It always feels like they're one step away from that breakout stage. They haven't achieved it just yet, but this would be a great opportunity for them to kickstart something here.
Well, I guess it's probably a good time to talk about, any changes that have been made. I guess Wildcard, obviously, releasing Rousty from stage 1, so I guess that's probably the biggest change for them. But I9 coming in, also known as the former Napier. You can run away from the name, but you can't run away from his game. He is a very sharp player, and I tell you what, coming into Bank, Napier's been missing for one stage. What impact will he have here as I9? It's time to get underway. Bank, Fury, and Wildcard. Oh, I'm feeling it.
Now let's jump in. We have seen, I think the biggest thing to note on this map, some sense play in some of the other leagues previous to APAC South, so that could be a trend that continues and may aid in actually quite a few attacks. Basement, for example, can help obstruct vision for the basement plant, and even upstairs, protecting players from deep angles as well. So that could be something to take note of. Habana off the board first, though, by Wildcard. Very powerful operator on this map with just so many hatches being available. And Ying to follow up. I wouldn't necessarily expect Wildcard to be the sort of team to lean into Ying and that aggressive playstyle, but perhaps with 4 Candelas now, that could have been something that they're a little bit afraid of. Valkyrie followed up as their first defensive ban, and that's pretty expected, even post-nerf. Valkyrie incredibly strong, particularly on such an expansive map like Bank, and interestingly enough, Azami off the board. I didn't expect Bank to be the map she'd be taken off on, but she's so adaptable to every single map in the pool that it's probably not too surprising that Wildcard would just want to get rid of her.
Jeez. I don't think I've seen, I mean, I'm glad we're finally seeing a bit of how you going on the ban phase. The Ying is the one that really surprises me, guys. Of all things, seeing the Ying banned out by Fury against Wildcard, it almost feels like the teams have been flipped around there. Maybe I could have been convinced if it was Wildcard banning out that Ying. Regardless, moving forward, Osa is left in. Now, I feel like I just want to make this quick note. Every time I see Bank, I see Osa play, whether it's CEO, whether it's down in basement. There is a huge amount of impact those talent shields can have if Wildcard do not have their impacts ready, if they don't have their C4s ready. So far, no impacts on them, but regardless, we'll keep our eyes peeled for whether we see any 6-pick onto for Fury. So far, nothing really absurd to change out, but something worth noting as we look down to the basement for the first round.
5 seconds remaining.
Warden being picked straight off the bat, and I'm sure some people are looking at it thinking, that's a bit strange. Ying's been banned out. Why the hell would you want to play Warden? Well, I'm assuming, and it's only an assumption, I'm not in the minds of Fury, that it's to counter the sense, to prevent it from being brought out. It also does allow Pat to be a little bit more aggressive if they want to extend over towards server, the MP5 with the 1.5, or the MPX rather with the 1.5. It is quite powerful, and if he does get flashed out, he can activate his gadget, prevent himself from seeing white, and actually hold down that position a lot more confidently than otherwise he would be able to. So I don't mind this pick from Wildcard, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more in the face of Fury.
I also don't mind the Nook pick. I mean, I would have more so expected Nook if maybe we'd seen a CEO hold, you know, being able to roam around in the basement, make your way up. Could be, I feel like, a little bit more impactful than top floor down. I don't know whether there are any wildcard members roaming on the top floor. Sky, if you can hear me, I'd love to maybe just see if there's anyone. I didn't see anyone. No, all back on site. There you go. So all 5 from wildcard are bunkering down at the moment. I do enjoy the blue server hold with Milo extending across into server. That's obviously going to cause a fair amount of trouble for Fury if they don't deal with this nice and early.
Well, we're almost reaching the halfway point of the round. Hajime with the nades in hands on the Nook. He's looking now to clear out Pat. Oh my god! I don't know how that nade did not take him out, but the second will follow. Pat decides to get aggressive, accepts his fate. Hajime gets the kill uncontested though, and it's a 5v4.
Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate there, losing the player in blue. Milo now left to try and hold at the back of server. ADSs are no longer there to support him, so he's going to have to try and maneuver in and around the server rack. There's no one there from Wildcard to kind of capitalize on anyone extending too far from Fury, like is happening right now. What a shot from Milo. Is there a player still pushing in from dirt? It doesn't look like they've been able to make their entrance yet. This is getting really dangerous for Fury. I mean, they're losing players, they're losing time, they've lost all their utility. This is a really dire situation.
Yeah, the power of Goyo on display, just stalling out this attack, those flames lasting now so long after the rework, and it's allowed Milo to just hold down this position. He'll likely eventually die, but he's wasting so much time in the process. Fury now scattering, trying to reclaim some control. With 45 seconds left, they need to clear this quickly if there's going to be any hope for a default plant. I think that's probably not really on the agenda now. They'll be looking to try and drop and rush in, go deep. Plant denial from Wildcard with only 30 seconds left should be more than enough.
Milo's going to be able to buy even more time here as Fury. That time truly is dwindling. There's always the 6th opponent of the attacker, and right now it may well do the most damage. OJ just watches for the player to drop in last in blue and into the main site. They're only going to make it on site, and that's about it, because it's an onslaught from Wildcard. The first round, Fury falter at multiple points.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad start for them though on the attack. I think they did a really good job clearing Pat over towards top blue. That was pretty uncontested and a good use of those grenades. But then we saw it really stall out. The flames from the Goyo. BG Man tried to push deep, took so much damage and eventually fell. And then we saw Fury sort of take that moment to reset. And I think it just took too long for them to go for that additional push. Milo was able to reinforce his position behind the rack. And with only 30 seconds left on that site, you're really putting your fate in the hands of God, to be honest, because going for default is never going to work, and then you have to send it deep, and Wildcard pretty switched on in that first round. Able to hold out, and it's a good start on the defense.
Now I'd like to see what the impact of the Nook's going to have if they do decide to keep this. I feel like it can be a little bit more impactful. When you're trying to hold that top floor, you've got the ability to kind of maneuver around each site on the lower side of the map. But the impact here for Wildcard, I feel like this is a really good flow-on effect. First round in the bag, you lose the first player, but very quickly you bunker down. I think for Milo, that is a massive win for him. That obviously allows him to kind of bunker in and double his confidence, if you will. So, already good signs, but we do want to look to Fury here. We want to see the response that we could not see in stage 1. We want to see a little bit more from them than we have so far. And in the building very quickly, only 10 seconds gone from the round, and Fury are foots on the ground.
This is already a big improvement from last stage. The one thing I still vividly remember about Fury's attacks is they struggled to get any meaningful control just in the map in general. It felt like they were always getting super stalled out, just even at the very beginning of rounds on map entry. So I'm liking the fact they bring in the Nook. That forces them to get a little bit more aggressive. They can go for holds down below. They're now a threat on the vertical as well. And it may even force Wildcard's hand a little bit here to potentially contest this. You can see Milo's looking to, I think, wither down drones over towards the main stairs, but he can't really hold that position due to the skylight. That said, Pat can hold his and doing a perfect job in countering this playstyle from Fury at the moment.
Also getting away in time not to drop a body there for Wildcard. So not only is it unattended, but now Pat is still going to be a larger impact. C4 in hand. If he can stay within arm's reach of the site, even if Fury are able to make their way in, he will be devastating to say the very least. Rotates for underneath if they need it. Vinny with the control just to the former side of square. He's got a lot of work to do here with 3 in front of him.
A lot of pressure on the shoulders here of Vinny. And with that shield taken down, he's forced back. The projectile denial is well dealt with by the attack, so that forces Vinny back towards the soda machine. But that allows Pat now to open up his line of sight. He can hold that cross as well as the vault in, so WILDCARD still with strong positions.
Once again, I don't want to say that time is going to be of the essence here, but I feel like it's going to be if they're not able to get the CEO wall open soon enough. I think that's it going. But Hajime just allowed to walk in to stock. BG doubles down, but Pat to find a second for the round. It is not going good at all for WILDCARD. They get a small in, and boy, do they take it. OJ left the clutch in a 1 versus 3. He's got time somewhat on his side. And where's the last yokai?
Not sure it's in a position to deny the plan, and Lycolis will stick. OJ might have information to play the post, but if anyone from Fury gets outside or gets deep over towards square, this is going to be a very challenging retake, and it's impossible. Lycolis closes it out, and Fury respond.
All too quick there. I really didn't feel like Fury had a lot in that round. They still had control. WILDCARD still had control of Janitor. They had control of the stock hallway. But one kill seemed to unravel it all. Hajime on the pick, straight through stock, allowed to walk in unnoticed, undetected. And soon after, WILDCARD crumble under the pressure. Regardless, moving forward now. Not looking for reattempt CEO. Happy to go to open and staff, sorry. And this is a site where I feel like, for me, I've always thought staff and open, even in, you know, seeing Bank come back into the meta, or even just into the veto, I always thought it was a little bit weaker than potentially Archive and Talers. But boy, has it been played a whole bunch since stage 1.
And it has changed a whole bunch in the way it's played. Not only from rework to current, old form to reworked form, but also just throughout the first stage as well. And we're even seeing more changes here from WILDCARD. I don't know if we can go back above Sky to front desk, but Vinny's actually placed a deployable shield facing through CEO over towards top square. So they're looking to hold down this front desk position, which is a direct counter to the way in which we saw so many teams from APAC, and I'm sure internationally as well, taking this site, which is you rappel in over towards CEO, you take the vert control above Archives across, and you just slowly back the defenders in towards a corner, over towards open area, and then once you open bot square, they have no way to really rotate or deny the plant. So it looks like WILDCARD are taking a very aggressive approach to directly countering that playstyle. That said, it opens them up to this push. This is the weakness over towards E, and Fury looking to capitalize and maybe just try and sneak their way straight into sight.
Has been spotted. BG Man opening it up, and in comes the surge. It's an absolute onslaught to begin with. WILDCARD with no response. Pat, what can he get done? They're trying to fall back to strike. They are sprinting, scrambling at that. Bomb going down in B, and now, or Kit rather, it is all but done and dusted. Surely WILDCARD can't bring this back. Dark taking down Pat pretty much seals the deal. Nail halfway in the coffin, waiting for the other foot to fall. Fury have absolutely read this like a book. And with WILDCARD clawing back with only inches, they need meters. They need the entire site to make something happen. There is no time left. 10 seconds and counting until they've got to be on the kit. And there's just so many crossfires. What a round from Fury.
I think I could probably say with fair confidence that is the best attack we have seen from Fury this year. Easily the best attack we have seen. They have completely directly countered how WILDCARD set up that site. They got in confidently and won the engagements that they needed to, and then they perfectly cut off the remaining players. I mean, that was just really well played. Really enjoyable to watch. WILDCARD could maybe innovate on that a little bit, perhaps have a yokai over towards E or bot square to get an earlier read on that push, or even a castle, I guess, to slow it down. But there wasn't much they could really do in the moment, I think, to directly counter that as quickly as they needed to. So props to Fury, a fantastic attack, and that's a really good boost, I think, to their confidence.
confidence has, I mean, I want to say seemingly been their issue for stage 1, but I'm sure it's a lot deeper than that, you know, from a play-by-play's perspective where we're pretty stock standard. Dirt is dirt and grass is grass. We don't need to know why it grows, we just need to know that it's there. And I do feel like Fury just never, ever gained that foot in the door. They weren't even able to keep the door open. It just felt like every game continuously slammed shut in its face. But with a bit of hope here, Fury have actually shown us glimpses of, I want to say, brilliance at the start. That round in particular. It gives us confidence. It gives us hope.
Oh, it's Milo for the first. A cheeky pick onto Hajime, who's been lighting up the server a little bit. Currently the top fragger for Fury, and it's the Thatcher as well. But Dark responds onto Vinny. OJ onto him though. So a lot of early trades.
Oh, wow.
OJ for a second. All the action over towards open area. And that will be the cue for Wildcard to now drop down, go back towards site. And they just need to now hold on for 120 seconds in the 4 versus 2.
Not only do they have to hold on, but we have to cast this, and I know it's going to be a slow one. Or maybe Fury are going to try and put all their eggs in one basket, try and find the trades nice and quick. I was so upset. The Osa on basement, we've seen multiple strats where, you know, you're kind of creeping into server, you get a bit of that long desk control toward A. And once those Talon shields are down, that's where things get a little bit fun. That's where things get a little bit interesting. But we're not going. I don't think we're going to see the impact here. We might be able to see something a little bit magical, but with both players spread for Fury, they were looking for the 1v1s. However, coming together, combining for the 2, it's going to be dangerous.
Oh, the flash. It's a good bait. Pat falls for it and will lose his life. Is that the in for Fury to potentially bring this round back? Still a challenging position they find themselves in, especially with Milo once more reinforced behind server rack. OJ low on HP, playing safe in Garage, and Cairo deep with the smokes. So it is still very challenging here for Fury. Maybe if Milo gets isolated, it could be possible though.
There's time here. If they do so, they might be able to catch it out. Milo nearly falls. Now they're going to try and force a fight like Colas can only find one. He's in sight. Milo swings at the right time. That was utter chaos. And I tell you what, Fury were about 50 HP from bringing that entire round back. However, Wildcard prevail. We're now into round number 5. And really, I don't think you could split either team.
Milo really the difference maker in that last round though. Not only did he get the opening pick on towards the Thatcher, limiting the resources for the attack, but then able to hold down that position at rack. Got the 2K as well to ensure that Wildcard did not throw the round. And that's really well played by him. We head back up above though, right? And this is where we did see Wildcard falter a little bit. The top square pressure from Fury and the utility clear over towards that janitor door was really good from them on their last attempt. And they'll be looking to replicate that because finding a response that quickly for Wildcard could be pretty challenging considering they're bringing, I believe, the same if not very similar composition.
Should see whether Wildcard decide to get aggressive here, whether they decide to get someone in the face of Fury. Last round kind of felt a lot more reserved. And granted, they still had, you know, janitor control. And for much of it, we had Vinny sitting in front of those shields, just kind of playing around and toying with the idea that it might be enough. Still not, but that's okay. And Fury, I really am watching them with high hopes for stage 2. It'd be lovely to see them kind of have a resurgence in their own team and maybe bring this APAC South League to a bit more of a level playing field.
Vinny lurking inside of stock. Vert angles down below towards the window. It's a good counter onto Hajime, who has drone this position. Should be aware that angles have been created. If he goes for this vault blindly, it would be a grave mistake.
Thinking better of it for now. much slower approach here from Fury. It's kind of quite similar to what we saw on their last CEO attack. Got BG Man in, and now the utility's starting to flush out. Really, really good timing from Fury. The synergy looks far, far better than what we saw at all in the stage one. It felt like a lot of times disjointed utility, timings were just off. I'm sure WILDCARD is starting to feel the pressure a little bit.
Vinny once more under the pump, forced back. Gonna get these discs out to offer some protection. Minute 30 left in the round. This is where Fury will start formulating their push. Milo likes to roam down below though. Could this be the difference maker for WILDCARD, especially once Fury get control of top square? If they're not careful, this flank could really mess up their attack.
Milo, oh, he's just not been able to see the backside of the solo player from Fury. I9 finds the first kill. Where it goes from here, no one knows. Cairo actually there to support as Milo hears footsteps. Can he find the kill? 50 seconds, my God. It's all on timing, and once again, WILDCARD. They are struggling on this site. They are struggling to find trades. They are struggling to find it in. But Fury have 45 seconds to capitalize.
Cairo and OJ forced deep. And they hold back this push. There might be some information available, but it looks limited. Cairo takes a lot of damage. Like Colas finishes him off, and it's once more OJ left to try and clutch up the round. 23 seconds left on the clock, and he just can't find anything. Fury not giving an inch. The nade doesn't quite land, but neither does OJ's bullets. The diffuser now on the ground, and OJ forced to retake.
A lost cause at this point. A little reprieve there with the kill on BG Man. Makes his entrance to the side a little bit easier, but the way that the Fury is set up, this just does not seem doable. Player to stock, two players that are going to be fighting for the late round. One out on the rappel, one by square. This is done and dusted. OJ just waiting for the opportunity to potentially pad his KD, but that's all he's going to be given, if anything further, and it's not. It's just dark. Through and through, Fury looks so good on that CEO attack, and WILDCARD showing signs of a little bit of concern. But don't want to jump ahead yet. Still the first half. Still plenty more to go.
Yeah, still very much back and forth. I think it's very difficult at the moment to have a solid read onto which team is edging out. I do think a Fury 4-2, though, would probably be leaning a little bit more towards them. But the rounds have been so mixed, and it's been quite site-dependent that it is tricky to get that read. Clearly upstairs, a strong point for Fury, and then a weak point, contrastly, for WILDCARD. It is a site that's falling out of favor, and it is very, very tricky to defend at the moment. And we're not even seeing the new tools from Sense, for example, that are being used yet. So a tricky position that WILDCARD find themselves in, but they can certainly even out the scoreline here over towards open area. Last time, Fury just pushed straight through electrical, straight into site, and countered this elaborate upstairs setup from WILDCARD to try and counter the vertical presence. So I don't think necessarily Fury are going to go for the same play, and if they did, I'd expect WILDCARD to have a few more measures in place to prevent that. So we might now see this vertical play up above come into fruition, and we get to see how it stacks up.
Hopefully we can, because WILDCARD have shown it twice now. This may well be on the money. Regardless, we reset for the final round of the first half. WILDCARD, I mean, you really don't want to be letting this one slip. You need to ensure at the I feel like bare minimum 3-3 on bank. Even probably leaning more so to a 4-2. Maybe I'm just being ambitious and optimistic, but looks like Fury once again taking a bit of the early control, and I'm really liking the pacing that Fury have here. They're not really wasting a lot of time at the start of the round, which I feel like was sometimes to their detriment. Certainly looking a lot cleaner.
I mean, they're going straight away for a slight permutation of the last attack where they're ignoring above and instead just going for bot square control. Cairo does cut down like Colas though and I9s on the ground, so it has unfortunately fallen apart a little bit, but Dark does find something back. Meanwhile, though, Molosca does finish off I9s. So the defenders do have the advantage, and the diffuser as well, cold outside. So Fury now not looking great here. Can Hajime, though, maybe reclaim it, find a couple of picks, sweeping through lobby, try and bring it back.
Well, they're trying to spot out this player pushing lobby, but I don't think it's going to happen. Not yet, anyway. He needs to be careful. He's lost all of Archive's control, and I don't know how much WILDCARD know. Still cautious of the push from the basement. Really? Oh, wow, that's a lovely little spot from Hajime. Really fantastic peek to take down Cairo. Now equals things out, and this is where things get a little hairy. 3v3, so much time left for Fury to play with. But you don't want to let it slip around.
Oscar needs to be so careful, could find himself in a literal pinch, but I don't think Dark has heard those footsteps, and if he has, showing poker face at the moment, hasn't moved an inch. Milo instead backs off as OJ engages himself. Still a minute to work with here for Fury. If they can come together collectively and make a push work, they could get something off, but they don't have hard breach, which really compromises their position.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
There's the pick OJ's looking for. And Dark, he's just been able to time Milo like an absolute genius. 30 seconds. Both players from WILDCARD on site. BG Man starts to make way for the rest. For Dark, this is not looking good. He gets tagged up, moving back for the kit. And I tell you what, WILDCARD, provided they don't overstep, they don't overpeak, this should be it. It looks like it's all Dark, and it's all a dark, grim day. But for a second, I got excited. OJ to save the day, in fact. Second half, we start 3-3.
Yeah, really well done there by OJ. Good composure. If he doesn't immediately peak there, he opens up the window of opportunity to be swung upon, which is not a very favorable position to find yourself in APAC South. But WILDCARD, they steady the ship. 3-3 the scoreline. Their real only mistake was probably allowing the sneak attack on open area on their first attempt, and if you then excuse upstairs, it would have actually been a 4-2 in their favor. But nonetheless, very balanced thus far. Really enjoying what we're seeing, especially from Fury. They have shown already a significant improvement to what we saw in the first stage. We have seen these teams actually go toe-to-toe pretty close previously, but I think just the way in which Fury are going about it is much better than what we have seen in the past. So good signs for them at the moment, and now we get to see what they've got on the defense.
I feel like both these... look, I was about to say both of these storylines have been the same coming into 2022 for WILDCARD and Fury. Maybe a little bit different, obviously, with WILDCARD having former unbelievable glory over all of APAC and definitely Oceania, but both of these teams had so much to prove coming into 2022, proving that they, you know, kind of deserved their places to be here. WILDCARD obviously fought through relegations. Fury, back then, Q confirmed, narrowly kind of avoiding it throughout their performances in the stage, the regular stages, that is. So I do feel like coming into 2022, they both had so much to prove, and both of them, I don't want to say disappointed, but I've definitely felt like WILDCARD were just missing the mark once again in stage one. This is really their opportunity. Likewise, Fury. Both in very similar places. They cannot afford to have another stage in APAC South without really that top 4 placement.
Certainly a slower pace here at the moment from WILDCARD. I don't mind the addition of Jackal on a map as large as Bank. Can really aid in speeding up that roam clear process, and at the moment I think WILDCARD do need something to expedite it a little bit 60 seconds in. Still struggling a little bit. Can only assume they're using this time efficiently to gain information. Milo swings in though. There is a yellow ping that he's looking to play off over towards front desk. Can he find this pick and open up the account? He goes deep. BG Man finds one, but it does get traded. Well timed by Milo.
I feel like maybe if Cairo had waited just a small second longer, that could have been quite large. An opening pick without a trade being needed. That's definitely a lot more optimal. Now with top floor control, they got a little bit more to work with. Vinny and Pat both coming in from the front side of lobby. Receive 4 rip. And maybe it's just going to be left out in the open now, knowing there's a player stuck toward Elevate. Tor. Milo could well and truly capitalize on this.
60 seconds remain. Diffuser in the hands of Pat, who's looking to push over towards this elevated position. Will be met by Dark, but he wins that engagement. Like Colas and Hajime now in the 2 versus 4, a tricky position that they find themselves in.
you doing, Hajime? What are you trying to pull off here? Wildcard, are they going to be ready for it? Are they going to be aware there's a player just on the tier 2 stairs here? So Hajime, they might need it ahead here. If Black Holders can find one on site, at the very least stay alive, might cause enough problems for Fury to deal with. Thermite going off. And now this is when they've got to play for it. Like Holders can't find more than one, but Hajime is good for his own. Swings back onto OJ. A 1v1 with Vinny, the winner in a clutch position.
Hajime gets aggressive. Vinny forced off the plant, but it's Vinny. No, it's Winnie to claim the round with the LMG. A close call there for Wildcard, but a solid first attack.
Boy likes honey, but he certainly likes money more. That is a very, very close round. My God. You know what?
Have you... actually, I'll excuse you, Manic. You are a full-time host now, so it's okay.
I am a full-time host. Just got to remember, I can't move like I used to, mate.
It was a good setup, though. The Winnie into Vinny winning the round, that was actually it was quite good.
Yeah, it somehow worked. It somehow worked. I definitely need to get this feedback situation sorted. I'm currently, it's like I'm in a room of just, like complete sound foam around me. It's just a full dark room and I can't hear myself talking. It is killing me. But regardless, no one needs to know that at home. All they need to know right now is that this game is actually far more of a barn burner than any of us could have expected. I mean, don't tell me that you expected Wildcard to not come out and kind of slap around Fury a little bit, as we did with Chiefs and Gladiator in the first matchup, and wow, have we been kind of turned on our heads. And then, of course, the conversation becomes, Guz, will this be consistent? Will this performance maintain throughout the stage? We don't know. But right now, Gladiator and now the big dogs in the server, Fury, are certainly making the OS teams fight for any points whatsoever, let alone a win.
Yeah, certainly. The first couple of matches of APAC South have been incredibly competitive across the board and across a pretty wide spectrum of performances from the last stage heading into this one. So we've already set ourselves up for another really thrilling stage of APAC South, and they always tend to be. And again, if you are just tuning in, APAC playoffs no longer take place. So the top 2 make it through to the major. So the stakes are even higher. A top 4 isn't going to cut it anymore. So a really, really big opportunity, of course, to directly go to the major now, but also a limited opportunity at that. So every game, every round, super critical, especially when you consider these teams only play 7 games compared to the other regions, which play 9. So limits your opportunities, but I guess, if you want to look at it a glass half full, it also means if you do put in consistent results, you're going to be better rewarded as well. So we'll see how it plays out. I think they changed Vinny's name.
I didn't see it. I was too busy listening to the waffle then. I was listening to the Philosophy of Guz. You know what? That could be a book. Philosophy of Guz, Chapter 1, Winnie. I like it.
I don't think I'd be able to write a book. I don't have many interesting stories. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, mate. Maybe when you get to my age.
When I get some land experience, maybe.
When you get some maidens ball like.
Can't ratio me up broadcast, man. That's not professional.
It's not. They're definitely a little bit broken there. Waiting for the next twit longer to come out, mate. Call out for it. It's, this has just been, again, I think one of the big conversations that we haven't been able to have on broadcast yet. I know you mentioned it when we first came in. I think it was the first match. You kind of, in your mid-analysis, talked about the fact that there are no playoffs, but the implications for that. I don't think people at home know, the severity of how big this is. The fact that we now no longer as a league, because you've got to remember the league is actually split into APAC South and APAC North. So combined, the league now misses out on playoffs, which, give and take, there are so many consequences to that. Obviously, 6 play days. A lot of teams miss out on further practice, on even more. I would say more money. It's not really. It's kind of just been absorbed in there. But the ramifications of that mean that we will never ever see a 3-1 split to APAC North or to APAC South at the major. It will always be only 2 teams. And whether those are the best 2 teams from each representing region, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think that it's something that definitely needs to be discussed and and opened up, because 7 play days for all of these teams, best of ones is all they've got. It is heartbreaking, to say the least.
Yeah, and the other flow-on and discussion of that, as hopefully we get into game relatively soon, just some replays on screen now, is the 6 invitational implications. And for those who don't know, or maybe perhaps are watching Rainbow Six for the first time, it is a global format, and these teams are battling it out for 6 invitational points. And the top 16 teams from around the world qualify for the 6 invitational, the big dance, in February next year. And we have more teams than any other region competing for points, and now without playoffs, the distribution has been changed. So for instance, if you finish in the top 2 for APAC North or APAC South, you go to the major, and you actually end up earning less points in the top 5 from other regional leagues. So it's pretty tough going here in APAC. We only had 3 teams last year qualify on points, and Sandbox actually narrowly only just made it. So there's a possibility that this year we could have maybe as low as 2 teams make it through on points. So a little bit of a feels bad, but also, again, just continues to reiterate how important every single match is going to be, because every single point is going to matter for APAC.
And that's just it, you know, when you look at the, if we're talking wider now, I know we're back into the game, so I just want to make this final comment before we finish up here. But you look at how close Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3 were for APAC South last year. You're talking about every single Playday 7, so 3 final Playdays we had last year. It came down to the last game to decide first place and second place and third. You are now talking about the fact that top 4 is not secured, let alone top 2 secured, until the last possible Playday. So it does even more so, Guz, make your point so important. And I think the viewers at home, it's important for us to bat this home. Every single play day counts. Every single performance. Every single round is going to have an impact when it comes to the end of the stage.
Oh! Sure will, as Hajime restarts the game with a jump out. Cairo does trade it out, but it's the Maverick off the board. Probably won't be disastrous, as Kaid is actually not being played by the defense. Is available, but not utilized. So the Maverick, not completely necessary here for Wildcard. They still have the Thermite, and they still have the secondary hard breach from OJ.
They'll hold these yokais for as long as possible, and they're doing so. I9 causing all sorts of havoc, and it's allowed Lycolis to push up the square stairs. Now, not only that, it's the smoke player. That is so ambitious from Fury. It's a massive gamble considering what this basement site holds, and the fact that you absolutely, of all players, you need Lycolis at the end to be denying that plant, denying that entry. Oh my word. Fury with balls of steel at this point.
90 seconds now remains. Wildcard on the back foot. Pat has the diffuser, and he'll be looking to make some moves, probably alongside OJ here, as they look to try and get control of server. I'm not entirely sure where Vinny is positioned. I can only assume relatively close by for a trade.
Bomb located by attackers.
He's making his presence known over towards main stairs, but will now regroup. This is a tough spot to find yourself in. With a minute to go, 3 smoke babes still available for Lycolis. Going for the plant, probably not on the agenda, and going for trades will be very, very challenging.
Pat all the way down now. With control of server, this is where things become interesting, and this is where, if Lycolis had have fallen at the very beginning, this would have just completely turned the conversation. Now they're going to go for an early plant here, try and force out some of that utility, perfectly timed from Lycolis. 30 seconds left here, and this to and fro dance is got to come to an end sooner or later. Wildcard looking to press on.
Still 2 smoke babes available though, so to get this plant down for Wildcard with only 20 seconds left surely won't be on the agenda. You can see Pat now force deep, goes to try and plant on the wall, but Dark able to shut that down. Vinny for the drop, shut down as well. Now OJ, again, in a 1 versus 4. He's found himself in this position a couple of times in this game, and this one no more winnable than the rest. Forced back, tries to save the KD, but I9 says, hey, I want that kill, and Fury claim the round.
Well, this is looking really good for Fury. The fact that, you know, like first round close, the half that is, first round of the half is close, and the second round, they certainly locked that in. It's a lot better than what we've seen from them previously. And just a further comment on that. Like Cole is pushing on the smoke player all the way up top stairs, still finding the kill, still getting back. He's the difference maker in that round there because Pat's going for an early plan. I'm not going to say if like Colas isn't there, they don't win that round, but it's certainly going to be a lot harder to try and play in any other circumstance. So now we're going to see what their resolve is like as we head to CEO. Something that WILDCARD just struggled with through and through. They really did not have a good time on this site. It's Fury's opportunity to showcase how good a defense can be.
10 seconds to go. 5 seconds left. Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
Upstairs has been a very challenging site to defend over time. And the rework on Bank recently hasn't really alleviated a lot of those pressures. We saw WILDCARD struggle in the first half, and we'll now see whether or not Fury have what it takes in the second. A relatively similar composition, a good mixture of plant denial with the Warden and the Echo alongside projectile denial. Dark and BG Man fulfilling those roles. Probably expecting an extension of pressure over towards Stock and the corridor. We are seeing WILDCARD innovate a little bit here. Talon shields from the Osa. We've seen them played on this side, I think most notably probably by Dire Wolves. Bit of mixed success, but when it works so well. So we'll have to see whether or not Fury have the counter available. Oh, the swing from BG Man almost hits the mark as Cairo hits his. Vinny walking straight into his line of sight. BG Man actually does survive. May well be revived. Hajime tries to cover, and unfortunately BG Man can't be recovered. It does leave it in a 4 versus 4 as Cairo hunts for more, but doesn't quite find his mark.
Bomb located by attackers.
That was way too close for comfort. At the very least, WILDCARD find that trade. Could have been a lot more than that. They had 4 players in the one position trying to grab one player up to their feet. And on this occasion, WILDCARD could not capitalize on any potential error made. A lapse in judgment turns out to nothing. It fizzles very quickly. And on the back of this, WILDCARD are certainly getting their money's worth in terms of their utility, but where they go from here is important. Last Talon Shield going to be used. Oh no, don't tell me they can't crouch through that. That's going to be almightily unfortunate. Last Talon used. Oh my god!
You were saying?
Oh, yeah, that's unlucky.
60 seconds now for WILDCARD to recover around once more, feeling somewhat similar to the last, where the cog's not quite turning in time, and Milo even struggling on the rappel. Cairo down below with grenades. Trying to maybe find a kill, but doesn't quite land. OJ gets a vault, though, in towards Stock, uncontested. No one's really watching these angles, and he can pinch alongside Cairo. The call will go out over towards main stairs, but OJ not in a position to trade. Needs to be mindful of Janitor, and it is, in fact, Hajime to find that one. Fury, upstairs. It works out.
That was just a series of unfortunate events for WILDCARD. I actually thought that their setup was quite nice. The Talon Shield to contest Stock and kind of open things up to fight that player that sits towards the vending machine. They get a team kill there. They move across to the CEO wall. Selma comes out. It's just not low enough to allow for Osa to walk on site and drop the Talon Shield and potentially go straight for a plant there. If not, force utility out from Fury, force him to fight. Selma comes across, tries to use it again, and once again, it's just a series of unfortunate events. Osa gets killed because she wasn't able to walk through earlier. Then Milo's struggling out on the rappel. I mean, it just doesn't get much more difficult than that for WILDCARD. So Fury is certainly going to be taking that every day of the week. As we move across, they're not going to reattempt Archive and Tellers this time. They are well and truly going to focus on this open area, which, again, with a bit of varied success, I do wonder how Fury are going to approach this.
Time will tell, but it does feel like we could be slowly edging towards a Fury victory, or at least pushing it over time. In doing so, securing themselves 1 point towards the standings. A result that perhaps even they may not have expected heading into the stage, and certainly a result that WILDCARD will not be happy with at all.
Sense. It's Sense.
Oh,
We're gonna see it.
it is sense.
We're gonna see it.
We're gonna see.
Look.
We're gonna see the green walls of death.
How many names have we had for it so far?
Roly poly, green
Yep.
wall,
Yep.
redacted wall. Can't say that name because it's a different game. All kinds of things. The ROU, which is the official
Yep.
title.
Yep.
I'll just say whatever comes to mind at the time because there's so
the
many.
ROU projector system. That's what I expect.
Yeah. We'll get that out in a mouthful. But
Yeah,
it could well
no
work
doubt.
here, right? No Warden from the defense. Probably the best counter. There are 2 bulletproof cameras though, and there is an interaction between those gadgets. Bulletproof cameras with the EMP charge can actually take down parts of the walls. You can see through them, I believe, as well. So could be some very interesting interactions in this round. Let's see if WILDCARD can actually set up for an execute which utilizes it.
Creeping down Milo. Got to be cautious with no backup. No trade potential yet. Vinny getting into position where potentially this could happen. Pinch from behind. Really unfortunate with the timing, but there goes Milo. I know I wasn't expecting it. What a flick from Milo once again. Is he going to find a 3rd scalp for the round? That is absolutely gnarly from Milo. Do not go near this man right now. He's on something else.
He has looked so sharp today. By far and away the standout player for WILDCARD in this matchup. Stepping up when it matters. Now BG Man and Lycolis backs against the wall. Such a tough position. You can see how many angles they're trying to monitor at the moment. And holding out this long, very, very tall ask.
Sen's definitely not going to have the impact that we'd hoped they'd have. Sen's wall, the roly-poly, the ROU projector system may not even come into an impact here with Fury, only 2 players left. Another kill for Milo. It's a quad kill in the round. Line him up and knock him down. Is this going to be the ace? He just can't get in behind in time.
Oh!
All 5. It's a full house for Milo and WILDCARD equal 5 apiece.
Molosca stepping up once more, a huge 5K to win the round and to keep a regulation victory alive as well. That's the critical storyline out of that one. I love round 11, 5-5. I've probably said that way too many times, but that's because APAC South is so damn close. Once again, the winner of this one will secure at least 1 round push OT and keep the regulation dub alive. So we cannot overstate just how big of a play that was from Vinny. The only downside, pardon me, from Milo. The only downside from that is though, we didn't really get to see the sends played, right? Because Milo was just cutting down everyone elsewhere, so we didn't actually see a pure execute with those ROUs actually being used. So it is what it is. We move on though. Basement we head, and Fury have looked decent on this particular objective. So let's see if they can back that up once more.
The ROU, more like I owe you another round, Sens. Am I right?
10 seconds remaining.
Got him.
Just stick to the game, mate.
5 seconds remaining.
What about my my career in stand-up comedy? It's gone down the drain quicker than.
But you are a bit of a joke. So.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, life's beautiful when you can laugh at yourself, is it not? Now with WILDCARD, they're gonna have to be careful right now. Fury are actually quite extended. Out into open. They've got Hajime on the vigil as well. So WILDCARD are definitely going to have to contend with this roam. Now, how long Fury stick this for? I wouldn't imagine it's going to be longer than a minute. Maybe a minute 30 if WILDCARD aren't quick enough to get into the building. But hang on, Lycolis has just come back up square stairs as well. They are unrelenting right now, Fury. Confident more than ever.
Confidence being the name of the game so far for them in this particular match. As Milo sweeps up above confidently on the Jackal. Not sensing much of a threat. Sees some feet though.
Again.
In the literal sense, BG Man will survive though critically for Fury, and that Warden could play a big part in denying the Capital, for instance, later in the round, as well as the smokes in the pocket of Molosca on screen now. So not a bad start from either team. Dark though still lurking inside of open area. The hatch has been opened up as well to allow him that rotation back down below, and he takes the cue to take it, to drop rather, quite early on this round, and probably at the right time as well, Vinny converging from Archives.
Minute 30 seconds, that's exactly what you want to see from Fury. They've wasted so much time, and like Colas has to stay alive here. Again, 3 smoke fades in the pocket. Does he get away? No way in hell. Oh, it was the run of death back across server, and he makes it just in time. Another round, he escapes death narrowly. I love the use of those aggressive yokais from Fury to enable plays early on. And now they're back on site. There is so much utility that WILDCARD are going to have to contend with here.
60 seconds to do it as well. Pat will immediately look to open up the server room wall in towards site. And I would expect he'll start faking out plants quite soon to try and bleed out this utility. 2 C4s, 3 smoke canisters. So much time can be denied, and the Nitro gets shot, I think. Dark lands it perfectly, but Cairo with coverage. Pat forced off ultimately by that smoke canister though, but Hajime elsewhere does fall, and with BG Man low, perhaps WILDCARD could try and send it here, get a little bit aggressive, and try and find these picks.
There we go. Vinny on the long line finds Dark. Like Cola's still alive with 1 smoke babe, and Pat gets taken out. Now, what is the decision from WILDCARD? It's go time. They have no other time left. Milo again rips another scalp away from Fury. OJ watching on the long line, and it's only BG Man left in a 1 versus 4. He has to go nuclear here. There's no C4 in the pocket. He'll find the first, but now the mountain seems ever so steep. Taking his time from the back of Vault. This doesn't happen, Guz. Not in this world.
10 and 8 so far, but 3 more. Very unlikely. It's OJ to close it out. WILDCARD, wow. Backs against the wall, they step up. They lock in overtime at minimum. That's 1 point on the board, and now they'll be looking to drive home for all 3.
Imagine a world in which we kickstart WILDCARD, 3 points on the board. That's what we would want and need to see for them. Off to a good start like they had in Stage 1. Remembering, if you can remember all the way back to mid-March, they defeated the Knights of all teams. They defeated the Knights 7-2. How drastically different Stage 2 was about to be for all of these teams. I don't think we could truly depict it, even if we had an hour-long podcast, guys. I don't think we could put all of the permutations around what Stage 2 is going to offer and where the pressure is going to be for these teams. But regardless, we're going to hold our breaths for the first 2 playdays, I feel, because that is where most of the teams that are, you know, primed for first, second, third place tend to falter, tend to fall. If you don't believe me, well, Stage 1 of APAC South, Chiefs lost their opening game, Knights lost their opening game, Elevate lost their opening game. They all went on to play in the playoffs. So it goes to show this is where teams falter. And WILDCARD right now, they're staying true to what their form was from Stage 1. Let's hope they can kind of improve on it as we watch throughout this stage.
This could well echo the head-to-head from the previous stage as well, where WILDCARD won in a 7-5 fashion. It was over on Chalet, so a different map, but nonetheless closely contested. WILDCARD just so close now, being able to close it out. And top 4 statistically, you'd want to back them in, but last time their approach was a little bit messy, and that started over towards stock. It was a team kill for WILDCARD that started to unravel things, and this time though it's looking a lot cleaner. BG Man already forced back, the wall being opened up. That deployable shield may not stand for too much longer, and BG does respond with an impact, but that line of sight is all that WILDCARD need to start applying pressure.
Opening kill going to be so important here. Fury were up close and personal in their last encounter on this site. Don't think they're going to be able to do the same. It doesn't even look like WILDCARD are near the same approach as the previous round. Cairo now coming up of square. Be careful here. This could be quite the cheeky play if he's able to make it over toward lobby. From there, that's where things get a little bit hairy. Now opening up for WILDCARD. This is where we might start to see Pat / the Osa have the largest impact of the round.
Vinny on this rappel, a position he plays so well, get the kill. He won't, but Cairo does.
Naughty, naughty.
Now 4 versus 5. Pat's in sight.
Yep.
Thinking about the plant. The Osa shield covering him
No impacts.
perfectly. And Milo on the cross. No impacts, no information, and Fury with no denial. There's a jump out though from Lycolis, gets 2, but the diffuser's on the ground.
Diffuser's on the ground, Lycolis is out, so it's a 2 versus 3 right now. Vinny's got control of conference. There's a player in toward Janitor. He's already made his way into sight. Vinny's got to be careful. There's a player out by vending machine. Cairo spots the player, and now Vinny, he can go for the kill. BG Man goes down, and so does Dark. Lycolis, who is out of this game, is now well and truly out of this round. What a shot. Cairo making his way back. There's no time on earth. You could be the fastest man alive. You could be Barry Allen, and you're still not going to make it there in time. Wild card. Take a bow. 3 points on play day 1 of stage 2.
Well, it came right down to the wire, figuratively and quite literally there for Wildcard, but an opportunistic play in the final round to secure all 3 points. May not have been as convincing as they otherwise would have liked, but 3 points is 3 points in this league. They will take that any day of the week, and a nice kickstarter to their stage 2 campaign.
And that's really the most important factor here. It's the stage 2 campaign. This is where you can make it to the major in the regular stage. You can